Hello everybody, my name is Chris and this will be my review for Rebel Moon, the new Netflix movie from Zack Snyder. Now, there are things I love about this film and some things that I wasn't a fan of, so let's get into this. Now, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, was easily one of my most anticipated movies this year. Now, I would say that it mostly lives up to the hype. I knew I was getting an epic movie, but I didn't realize how emotional it would be. Snyder has managed to make me connect to every main character in this movie in their own unique ways. The twists and turns these characters went to felt impactful and very well executed. From actor to director, I haven't built a too emotional connection to any of them other than the main character Korra, but I'm sure as we see more of them over hopefully multiple movies, that connection will only get stronger. So, my favorite character here is Korra. I think she's absolutely a badass in this film, and she lives up to her name because she is the core of the movie. Every character is connected to her, and she leads the way to our very in a very successful way. My worry was that her fight scenes won't feel too convincing as they were on a larger budget and would use stunt double throughout, but that completely isn't the case with Korra. Sofia Boutella did almost all of her own stunts, and she's incredible. And at it, and the choreography is she saw the fight scenes, and I was able to absorb into every battle. And speaking of the battle, every action set piece was so epic. Snyder knows how to film action, and those are obviously the highlights of the movie. The action was so cool, and Snyder's stunt choreography team have outdone themselves yet again. However, my favorite aspect of the battle was the effects of the gunshots had. They feel so impactful. In Star Wars, blasters are obviously dangerous, but they don't feel much power to them. But in Rebel Moon, every gun from a pistol to a machine gun feels powerful. And the slow motion really helped to sell the way and power of these guns in this universe, and the sound design was phenomenal. Actually, the sound design throughout the film was phenomenal too. The closest thing I can compare it to is the Transformers movies sound design. If you appreciate those sound effects, I think you are really in for a big treat with Rebel Moon. And now, sticking with the sound, let's talk about the score composed by Tom Hockenberg, also known as Junkie XL. Rebel Moon's score is a mix between Mad Max Fury Road and the Snyder Cut, and a few set pieces felt like I had heard similar versions of them in other Junkie XL movies, but overall, you hear a clear identity for Rebel Moon's score. It had tender moments for the more gentle, emotional scenes, but really ramp it up appropriately for the most epic moments. Like I mentioned earlier, the emotional side of the film surprises me. We haven't really seen too much in the trailer, and you don't normally think of that when you're watching like a Zack Snyder movie, but it's quite permanent in a Child of Fire. Snyder was able to take his time developing this character in the way he wants to, and that's a real advantage to creating this film in his own universe. Rebel Moon is being its own IP and not connected to other franchises mean he's the gatekeeper and how characters are shown and no one else. He doesn't have to abide by guidelines, so we see what Snyder wants us to see for this character, which allow him to build the emotional scenes the way he wants them to be. There's no way of comic accuracy or specific moments that Snyder has to link in to the core of the characters. Snyder is the only one who truly knows these characters, so we see what he needed, what he wants us to see, which is a real aid to Snyder introducing us to these characters. Now moving on to the CGI. And for the most part, the CGI is solid or incredible. It has about two or three weak shots that feels out of place, but the rest are really strong. And I think why is so great to give a director like Snyder a smaller budget is because he knows what to get the most of what he's got. And the movie has a lot of soft focus, meaning the edges of objects in focus are slightly blurred or perceived as smooth, and the rest are out of focus, have even softened field of them. So now they can be seen as a negative if you want that super crisp look. However, I think with an 80 million budget and style Snyder was going for, the soft focus really works. It firstly gives this movie its own style, its own texture, and its own identity, but it also means the CGI in the background or it's out of focus naturally has a more of a blur to it, and as there is less focus on it, which means there is less pressure to get in the super crisp CGI shots on a lower budget, so any weaker shots are less noticeable due to the way Snyder shot it. What really helped the CGI too was the mix of practical sets and CGI. For example, the village of Vale felt real because it was real. There was no feeling of CGI used because when it was used, it meant when the CGI chips arrived at the village, it felt real too because they were landing on a real set. And overall, the look Rebel Moon is quite beautiful. This is one of Snyder's most visually stunning films, and Snyder has proven that he's a great cinematography as well as a great director. And we all know Snyder loves his slow motion, and this movie does his fair share. But if you like me, then you love slow motion, so it doesn't bother you. And on a number of occasions, there was some seriously epic slow motion shots. It really works best in the biggest action set pieces. It allowed me to track what was going on and absorb into the scene. I just love how Rebel Moon looks, and I love Snyder's slow motion. I think he's the best in the business at it. Michael Bay is probably the closest to Snyder, but Snyder's visual style just leaves it above anyone else. The sound design with the slow motion shots also adds to the enjoyment, and the slow motion I could watch the gunshots in slow motion and on repeat. I just love how those shots they really look. And the other thing that I love from Rebel Moon is the tone. Finally, a truly serious sci-fi movie that feels like a rarity in the modern era of blockbuster filmmaking. You feel the fear of the characters have the danger they're in. No jokes are being forced or overused. Humor is there, but only subtle, and was very rare, which made me so much better to see this. There's one scene in particular that I love so much because it does something that has been missing so much from modern blockbuster. I won't spoil, but there's a scene where something powerful is being said and the score rises and it becomes this really powerful moment. Now in most modern blockbuster, before that scene is over, the director will shove in a cheap joke to tear down that moment and attempt to humorize or subvert the viewer. But fortunately, Rebel Moon doesn't do that. It sticks with the powerful moment, and it feels so much rewarding to see that. It feels so incredible. I didn't feel robbed of that powerful moment. I feel rewarding for feeling the character's words and feeling motivated myself. I also want to talk about Emerald Novel. played by a screen. I was expecting a release villains, and whoa, we got one here. When I first saw him, I felt on an edge. I didn't feel comfortable seeing him interacting with other characters. He was unpredictable and actually very scary. Snyder wrote this villain very well, and I want to see a lot more of him in the future. I would love to watch a series on how he became an animal, because I think there's a storyline that has a very fascinating path, but at least more on the story. For the most part, you could see what the story was going to do. The trailer showed that very well. However, there was a lot I didn't expect. There was an incredible twist that blew my mind, and I didn't see them coming at all. Also love how deep the history is here. There's so much we still don't know, but there's a strong feeling of history throughout the film, and it leaves you wanting more. And the fact that we are getting prequels, comments, and hopefully spin-off shows telling those stories really excite me. One of my issues with Child of Fire story was that the ending didn't feel satisfying. Obviously, it's part one, and Snyder has stated it ends on a cliffhanger, setting up part two, so it's meant to not feel truly satisfying. It's meant to make you feel you wanted more of this. You want to know what happens next, and the movie made me feel that way. So it actually did its job. So the negative with the story is that it makes me want to see more of, and actually it's a real compliment. The storytelling, my only negative with the film really is the third act. They feel a little clunky, as 1 and 2 flow really well, so it did the half of act 3. However, the second half of that act felt like it was trying to wrap things up, but it didn't feel like a natural flow. It felt like Snyder was trying to conclude where everything is before getting to part 2, but it just doesn't flow as smoothly as the rest of the movie. There was one scene where it felt like it was meant to be the final scene of the movie, but then another scene happened which was actually the final scene. The best thing I can compare to is the epilogue of the Snyder Cut. That film for me should have just ended with Superman opening his shirt and showing the S to the screen, and then the other scene after that should have been an end credit scene setting up the future, but allowing the Snyder Cut to end in a satisfying way, with Superman being the final shot before the credits. And I had the same feeling here with Child of Fire 2. The final scene for me should have been like an end credits scene, as it feels just like an add-on to what actually felt like a satisfying ending, and if that makes sense. But other than that, I had a blast watching this movie. I think anyone watching this movie will really have a fun time at the very least. It's an action impact, movie on face value, but has very deep moments too. So if it's entertained me a lot and has me want to see more of this universe. And we got prequel comics and hopefully spin-off shows, and only thing I ask of Netflix is to give Snyder a bigger budget for the third movie when it comes, not if it comes, but when it comes, because I think this will definitely happen. A bigger budget will just allow Snyder to have more money for the CGI, which will actually clean up a few shots and allow him to increase the scale of the sets and the overall movie. I really hope Netflix continue to trust Zack Snyder, and because part one has proved that he know what he's doing, and I think Rebel Moon will be a major success for them, the studio, and can't wait to see more of this universe again, and I can't wait to see this movie again. So overall, Rebel Moon, part one, Child of Fire, is beautiful, it's epic, and it's emotional. and I really love it. So give it a big watch, especially if you are a fan of Snyder's work and also a big into sci-fi genre. It's going to have a it's going it's great to get into a new universe and explore new characters, new stories, and it's just a great place to be. So that's my review for Rebel Moon, now on Netflix. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, consider subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.